Now, sports media growth.
All right, welcome back. Sports Tech Nation 2021 rolling on here. Big thanks to Sigdem and that panel for the perspectives on football from really all over the world, here in the US, in LA, in Brazil, in Europe. So really great stuff as we roll along here. Our next panel is on the growth of sports media, and I have the pleasure of moderating this one with three individuals who I got to meet virtually yesterday. Two are with NTT, and let's welcome them in now. Please welcome Akil Unial, the Vice President for Strategy and Growth at NTT, Marv Muchawar, Board Director and Senior Vice President at NTT, and collaborating with them is Aviv Arnon. He's the co-founder and Chief Business Development Officer at WSC Sports. Gentlemen, welcome. Appreciate you all being here. And let's get a little bit more of an introduction from all of you. Marv, we can start with yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Josh. Like Josh said, my name is Marv Muchawar. I'm a board member and a senior vice president here at NTT. I've been a part of the company now for over 10 years. I've done a whole variety of things. Most recently, I've been focused on kind of driving our global strategy and development. And development programs include business development, corporate development, and product IP development.
Awesome. Wonderful. Akil?
Great. Thank you, Josh. Akil Unial, based out of Dallas. I'm part of Marv's team, and I lead the smart sports media and entertainment business vertical for NTT. I've been with the company for 10 plus years, came through different acquisitions, and had the pleasure to work with different operating companies within the NTT group to bring all the different types of solutions and IP to support these three verticals: sports, media, and entertainment. So glad to be here. Thanks for inviting us.
Glad to have you. And Aviv, hello.
Hi, Josh. Excited to be here. Thanks. So I'm Aviv Arnon. I run the business development at WSC Sports. I'm one of the founders. What we do, I'll give a really short one. We automate the creation of sports highlights, working with all the sports media, the leagues, the broadcasters, everybody that has rights, to help them maximize how they use sports content and how they scale their operations and distribute short-form content across all digital platforms and engage their fans. We work with the biggest brands in sports, also have some leading investors, both in technology and particularly in sports, in our cap table, and among them NTT. So great partners of ours, and I'm happy to be here and take part in this panel.
Wonderful. And we're glad to have the partners all on board. Marv, if you can go into a little more in-depth explanation about the NTT group and the global business, and also the vision and strategy of NTT in smart sports, media, and entertainment.
Yep, great. Happy to. Yes. So NTT, Nippon Telegraph and Telephone, our beginnings date back to 150 years ago. So, but most folks today know us as NTT. That's our global brand. We are a global conglomerate, 110 billion in revenue. We do business in 80 plus countries, 320,000 people, and we serve 80% of the Fortune 100 today. Simply said, our business breaks down into two parts: communications, and we are a global technology and business solutions provider to those Fortune 100 companies and beyond. Our communications business, again, it's our beginnings, hence the telegraph and telephone, but we are across all aspects of communications, voice, data, landlines, mobile, LANs, WANs, IP backbone, whatever you can think about that involves communications of both voice and data. We're in that business. The other business that we're in is being a global technology and business solutions provider. That's about 40% of our business today. And we're really focused on helping our clients today driving their digital transformation and innovation efforts, and in particular accelerating how they're modernizing their IT platforms. And this goes across all industries. An additional focus that we have in this business is to further drive our asset-based solutions. And we're doing that through partnerships, investments, such as with WSC, and of course our internal R&D. We spend probably close to $3 to $4 billion a year in R&D and various investments. So a lot of power behind what we're trying to do in terms of driving innovation and digital transformation. We are focused across a number of industries, and one of which being one of our key industries is sports media and entertainment. I know you asked Josh a little bit about what our sports and media and entertainment strategy is. I would say, from a sports standpoint, we've been a longtime sponsor of sports, especially in Japan. Most recently, the Tokyo Olympics, we were a leading sponsor of that. And I would say over the last 5-10 years now, we have spent more time, more effort outside of Japan in investments such as investments that we've made in the Open, the British Open, Tour de France, Major League Baseball, IndyCar Series, just to name a few. And as we work with these partners of ours in these sports assets, it's really about kind of helping them drive the innovation to enrich the fan experience. I mean, I just net it out as that. It's all about the fans. It's smarter engagement, more sustainable engagement, which is a key thing that we're looking at going forward. On the media and entertainment side, we've been working for a long time with some of the largest global media companies, especially in the EMEA region. I would say short term, our strategy is more of leveraging those relationships, those solutions that we've been working on with those larger companies, and using that toward better experiences, focusing in on the online digital segment, whether it's OTT, gaming, and esports. So I'll leave it there because I know Akil can elaborate a lot more in that area.
Yeah, no, wonderful. A great overview, Marv. And NTT has its hands in a lot of different segments around the world, really. And Akil, as I'll transition to you, you've been involved in the Israeli ecosystem for many years as well. And you just opened a new chapter with the NTT Innovation Laboratory Israel. As one of the leading tech companies, how do you expect to extract, or what do you expect to extract from the Israeli ecosystem?
Yeah, no, great question, Josh. We're pretty excited that NTT opened an office this year, and our colleagues are driving a lot of collaboration and innovation conversation with some of the partners in Israel. As Marv alluded to it, right, we are basically leveraging the ecosystem in Israel, whether it's a startup or mature companies that are already providing services, from three aspects. One is from a collaboration partnership. How can we leverage their IP and solutions to augment existing capabilities that we have to serve our existing segments, right? Second is investments, right? We have a venture capital arm within NTT. And if there are companies that we see there are opportunities for us to partner and co-invest, we are happy to explore that as well. And then the third is inorganic, right? Are there any M&A opportunities for us to acquire any companies in Israel that we can fold into our bigger portfolio of services and capabilities and start serving the more sports, media, and entertainment vertical. So across those three areas, that's how we anticipate working with the Israel ecosystem.
Wonderful. And this is a follow-up for both you, Akil, and Marv, with the sports tech industry seemingly breaking records and growing year over year. NTT has invested in several VCs in Israel, as you mentioned, WSC Sports, one of the leading sports tech companies in the world. With that, how dominant do you think the sports entertainment industry can be on the NTT pipeline?
Marv, you want to take it?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll take it first, and Akil, you please add to it. But from an NTT corporate perspective, we think it is one of the dominant industries that we're in today, and fast growing. For us, I think we've calculated it to be roughly about $100 billion addressable market for us, which is large, very large. And I believe we've just started scratching the surface, especially outside of Japan. So we're very excited about it. It's being reflective too, I would say, over the last couple of years, if we've had a little bit more focus on it. We've seen a growing pipeline, which has been very I would say comforting that we're making the right decisions, putting our efforts in the right places, and we think that as we apply more of what we've done in other areas, and continue to make the right investments in startup companies and in certain technologies, that we can become an increasingly bigger player in the sports and media market.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. Thanks. Just to add on, there are customer segments that we are focused on, as Mark was talking about the digital segment, right? But also on the sports side, we are leveraging their network of all the different stakeholders, the sponsors, the broadcasters they currently have, right? How can we take our services, our solution, and showcase to their end customers, right? It's kind of really building that network and expanding, and we are seeing a lot of traction from all those different customer segments across all the regions. Asia Pac doing great. EMEA is, we are having some great conversations, and we have some great customers in the space. And North America, we're kind of, as Mark said, scratching the surface, especially in the esports side. A lot of opportunities there for us.
Yeah, and I think you'll see some additional sponsorships and investments that we'll announce as we get into 2022, just to confirm that we're going to continue aggressively to attack this space industry.
Marv, let's talk about it afterwards.
Yeah, looking forward to that. You guys want to break some news on the panel today? We're all ears. Let's bring Aviv into the fold here, and then have Akil follow up, because one of the main challenges when we're talking about the sports tech industry is data, because it can be such a useful tool in so many verticals: athlete development, fan engagement, media. It can also be a weapon if you don't know how to use it properly. What do you think about that, Aviv? And do you think that sports and media organizations are dealing well with all the data that the tech world provides?
Yeah, I think in general, we see an ongoing shift in how fans are consuming sports, and how consumption is changing from linear TV to digital, and the different formats and different platforms where fans are actually engaging and consuming the content. That is an ongoing challenge for media rights owners to engage fans and cater their content in the right way, and their products to the fans. They need to keep building and innovating the experience, being able to capture the right fans and bring them to tune in, subscribe, buy merchandise, bet. We're looking, as WSC, we're looking for ways to help them scale that operation and help them. They're just scratching the surface at this point, and knowing their customers and really being able to serve all these different platforms and destinations and markets. All of them are also now working globally. They used to have their local markets, and now they're trying to capture the world. And with automation, with our AI, with the ability to service different value propositions to different segments, and in different ways that actually matter to the fans and convert them better. This is our everyday job, to really figure out those ways on how to help our partners to do that better. So for us, it's a big opportunity, but definitely an ongoing challenge that's at the focus of all the sports industry today.
And Akil, what do you think about those challenges, right?
I agree with Aviv. Yeah, I mean, that's why we leverage companies like WSC, right? I mean, all the way from content creation, right? We are consuming data. We have, just take IndyCar as an example. There are 200,000 data points that we capture from the race control and timing and scoring and car data, right? And how do we? Sometimes I feel there is excess of data, and you need to be very smart and intelligent to pick the right data points to communicate a story to the fans, right? And I think that's where all sports organizations, they want to go and address the Generation Z, right? The millennials. How can we, they have less attention span, right? How can we pick all those data, make it consumable for that audience, and send it across all the different channels for them to view it, right? I think that's a challenge we all are addressing, and I think there are some solutions that we are, exploring, working with, or we have a pretty solid data analytics platform or foundation that we kind of really keep on adding use cases and applications to support those fans' demands and needs. So absolutely.
Akil, I'll stick with you with the large audience that we have tuning in. There's many advanced and some early stage startups among them. What would you say as far as how an entrepreneur can approach NTT?
Yeah, no, great question. I think we are, especially with NTT Innovation Lab in Israel. For the Israeli audiences, feel free to reach out to them, Noah, and ask of great, colleagues of ours. And then reach out to us, Marv and I, on LinkedIn, or send us an email. Happy to. NTT is a pretty large company, and there are a lot of different operating companies within the NTT brand. So if there are any use cases or any ideas that you want to bounce off, very happy to talk to any of you, right? And again, as I mentioned earlier, collaboration, partnership, to investments, to acquisition. Those are the three areas we are kind of really exploring. So feel free to reach out to us anytime. Happy to talk to them.
And Marv, following up with that last question, because many of the viewers might be working on different techs, can you share with us just the other industries and sectors that you and NTT have your eyes on? I know you touched on a little bit before, and some that you've been working on with your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, and maybe just to add to Keel's point, not only obviously the new innovation lab that we have in Israel, but I'm based here in Palo Alto, California. So we have our research and development and labs here in Palo Alto, and there's a connection with all the labs. So it's a nice way to, if you're local in Israel, to make the connection through Noah and her lab in Israel, which then can connect through Palo Alto and then ultimately back to Tokyo. So there's a bit of a network there. But some of the other areas industry areas that we're looking at, traditional ones, I mean, banking and financial services, we got a deep, rich history in the old way of doing transactional payments, but we've been spending a lot of time and more recently looking at investments in digital payments and, of course, blockchain of the future. Healthcare, the whole digital twin concept, doing a lot of research, development, and investment here that I've been exposed to in the Silicon Valley. In the healthcare industry, both not only from a VC investment standpoint, but some of the kind of forward-thinking research that our NTT research arm is doing in digital healthcare. And then lastly, one of the other areas that we've been spending a fair amount of time on is transportation. Mobility as a service, we believe, is going to be a huge thing of the future. We think it's the way for both our public sector clients and our private sector clients ultimately to be able to optimize their consumer or their person's journey. We think that there's a ton of technology involved with that. We've already made some substantial investments in that area, and we're looking to do more because we think that will lead to, again, part of our charter of really being able to provide solutions to make our world smarter and more sustainable, which is key to try to get people out of their individual cars and being able to leverage truly a mass mobile network more seamlessly and more effectively.
Yeah, sustainability is such an important part about emerging tech and trends going forward, as we heard from one of our previous panels. And Akil, back to you and the smart sports, media, and entertainment sectors. When it comes to trends, we're seeing, metaverse has been a word that we've heard a lot of this year, OTT, 5G, more and more involved in the media and entertainment space. With that, big companies, Amazon, Apple, others are investing in both tech and sports. What is NTT's relation with these trends and what's on the pipeline in the near future?
Yeah, no, great question again, Josh. As a system integrator at NTT, we have a very technology agnostic view when we work with our customers, right? So all these new trends that are happening, whether it's OTT or 5G, e-gaming, right? Wagering that is happening, the betting industry, right? We basically kind of work with these partners, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, right? All the big guys, the Googles of the world. We have strong partnerships with them where we integrate some of the solutions into our portfolio of solutions and drive these engagements with our customers. So it's very complementary in that sense. And we have strategic relationships globally with some of these big technology companies. And we are, especially around 5G, we have already started offering private 5G as a service to some of our customers, right? How do we take that to, I mean, traditional, the use cases are in the manufacturing industry. How do you take them into the sports entertainment vertical, right? How can we work a private 5G in a smart stadium scenario? So those are some of the use cases we've already started exploring. And the opportunity is huge for us, right? It's just, where to focus on, how do we kind of really bring in the right partners and the right companies like WSC into working together and addressing some of these situations for our customers. Very exciting.
Very exciting indeed. And that leads me to Aviv and the partnership you have with NTT. What are the values of such a brand in promoting WSC and the services around the world?
Yeah. So, look, it's been invaluable. Partnering with a global tech leader like NTT was a great validation for our technology and for the company. Especially, like, one thing was, as we were entering Japan, of course, just coming with a stamp of approval from NTT as an investor. We now have a substantial distribution with partners in Japan, including the J League in soccer, the B League basketball, the V League in volleyball, with local broadcasters and production companies. So that's been one area where this was a great benefit for WSC. Another one is when we were exploring motorsports and how we're gonna get into this market. We're talking to a few partners and then partnered with Akil as NTT was sponsoring the IndyCar. We were working together to figure out how to fit our solution into the motorsports world, and collaborating on this. And today I'm really proud of the results with a multi-year partnership with IndyCar, and also NASCAR is another motorsports now partner that is also benefiting from this venture into motorsports. So great, and we're also now working on the next generation of solutions for mutual partners that we both work with. So I don't see the end. I just see the more opportunities. And Marv, as you were saying before, let's talk after. I'm sure there's a few more things we should discuss.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Gentlemen, we're almost out of time. I know we could go on for easily another half-hour conversation, but to end on a positive note, I'd like to get your thoughts on what you believe will be the major trends in sports media in the new year. And Marv, if you want to kick us off.
I'll just keep it brief. This is more of a personal opinion of mine, and I think it's playing out as we're looking at our business. It's all about the analytics, right? Both structured and unstructured data. And really, I think that the trend is continued better use of that information. Of course, the technology that WSC has really is advancing that. But then I'm still trying to determine how we transition all that, our abilities and solutions that we have on analytics to this whole concept of the metaverse, right? So there's something there that's going to click and raise its visibility of how that's all going to work, I think, as we get into 2022. So I'm excited to figure out if there's a company that already knows about it and has figured it out, or somehow someone else does it. We're interested in it.
Akil?
Yeah, I would say, how do we transform from e-commerce to e-commerce? That's the new word I've learned in the last few weeks, right? So as the metaverse is coming in and as all the virtualization is happening, right, how can we build an e-commerce or a virtual commerce platform to enable some of the fan engagement and commerce activities between fans and brands? So pretty exciting stuff for us.
And Aviv, go ahead and give us the last word.
Yeah, I think we'll see more direct-to-consumer and OTT solutions from sports media going direct to the consumers. We'll see more adoption and more solutions around short-form content as a primary consumption um, primary way for younger fans to consume sport. Among that, like we see a great adoption to the stories format, which we have a few partnerships that we're working on these days. And the last, both of you mentioned it, metaverse, NFTs. We already had some collaborations around there. Who knows how that will evolve, but I'm sure that's going to be in the headlines. Yeah, we plan to take a role.
We'll probably be hosting Sports Tech Nation in the metaverse in a few years. It's all going to be virtual, I'm sure. Gentlemen, this was outstanding, very educational. Thank you so much for joining us here on Sports Tech Nation.
Thank you so
Pleasure.
much. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks, everybody.